Hey everyone, welcome back. You ever get that sinking feeling when you see those crazy headlines about floods and wildfires and stuff?
Yeah, it's easy to think, oh, that's awful, but then kind of just move on with your day?
Totally. But what if I told you that all those crazy weather events are actually directly impacting your wallet?
Uh-oh, this doesn't sound good.
It's not. Today we're going to do a deep dive into why home and auto insurance premiums are going through the roof here in Canada.
Sounds timely. Everyone I know is complaining about their insurance lately.
No kidding. We're basing this deep dive on a recent article from Paste to Text. It's called Hard Market in Personal Lines Proceeds Apace. Kind of a mouthful, but
Definitely sums up the situation, though, doesn't it?
it really does. And get this, the article says that Canada just experienced its worst year ever for catastrophe losses.
Oof.
Yeah. Could you even guess how much all that damage cost?
I mean, billions. I feel like it's got to be billions.
Keep that number in mind. We'll come back to it later.
Okay, suspense is killing me.
All right. All right. So obviously, this whole topic is super important for anyone living in Canada. But actually, I think even if you're not in Canada, this deep dive is really interesting because it kind of shows you how insurance markets react to these big economic trends that are happening all over the world. Yeah,
For sure. Insurance is kind of like a canary in the coal mine, right? It shows us where the risks are.
exactly. So let's start with, well, this whole idea of a hard market, which the article keeps mentioning.
Right. So, hard market. This basically means that the insurance industry as a whole is kind of tightening its belt, right? They're facing increased risks and costs. So that means premiums go up. It's harder to actually get coverage for certain things. And they're a lot more strict about, well, everything, underwriting, who they'll even insure, all that.
So basically, if you've noticed that your insurance premiums have been going up, or maybe you've had trouble renewing your policy lately, it's probably because of this hard market thing, huh?
Probably. I mean, there are other factors at play too, but the hard market is definitely a big one.
Okay, well, let's go back to that number I mentioned earlier then. Remember how I said that Canada just had its most expensive year ever for insurance claims?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for you to reveal that.
Well, hold on to your hats, folks, because it's a whopping $8.5 billion.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's a lot.
it is. And that 8.5 billion, that translates to something like 275,000 individual insurance claims filed last year.
Wow. That's a lot of people dealing with the fallout from these disasters.
It really is. And the article specifically points to a few major events that happened in 2024, like those huge floods we saw in Ontario and Quebec.
Right, and let's not forget that massive hailstorm in Calgary. I saw pictures online. Some of that hail was like the size of like grapefruits or something.
Not kidding. And there was also that huge wildfire we saw up in Jasper, Alberta.
Yeah, and actually the article mentions that just 1 month after those three events, 223,000 claims had already been filed. So that gives you an idea of how quickly those numbers can spike after a big disaster.
Wow, yeah, that's a crazy jump. Okay, so we've talked about this hard market and the record-breaking catastrophe costs. But what does this actually mean for our individual insurance premiums?
Right. So the article says that in the last quarter of 2024, the average auto insurance premium went up by 11.3%.
11.3%.
Yikes. Yeah. And home insurance wasn't much better. It jumped by 7.3%.
So no one's escaping this then.
Nope. The article says that every single province in Canada saw increases, which I guess makes sense if it's all tied to these nationwide events in the hard market, right?
True, true. So it was a Canada-wide phenomenon, but were there any differences between the provinces?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The article points out that while the increases were everywhere, some provinces were hit harder than others, like Alberta, for example. They had the highest jump in auto insurance. It was a crazy 12.7% increase.
Ouch. And how about home insurance?
Home insurance, Ontario took the lead. They had a 9% increase.
Okay, so these catastrophe costs are clearly a huge factor here, but the article also talks about some other things that are contributing to these rising premiums, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's not just the big disasters. It's a whole bunch of things sort of piling up all at once.
Like what?
Well, think about it. We were all stuck at home for like 2 years during the pandemic, right? And now everyone's back on the road, driving more than ever.
More cars on the road, more accidents, more claims. Makes sense.
Exactly. But it's not just that. Remember all those supply chain issues we were dealing with?
Yeah, those are fun.
Well, those haven't exactly gone away. Car parts are more expensive, it's harder to find mechanics, and that means the cost to repair your car after an accident is way higher than it used to be.
Yeah.
And that all gets passed on to the insurance companies.
And ultimately, those costs get passed on to us.
Right. It's like a chain reaction from the pandemic to the supply chains to the cost of repairs and finally to our insurance premiums.
It's wild how all these things are connected, huh?
It really is. And then we also have to factor in, the elephant in the room.
Inflation.
Exactly. The cost of literally everything is going up, and that includes the cost to repair or replace your car or your house.
So even if you haven't filed a claim recently, your premiums might still be going up because the potential payout for the insurance company is just higher now.
Exactly. It's all about risk for them. Right.
Makes sense.
Right.
The article also mentioned something about record levels of auto theft. What's going on with that?
Yeah, that's another piece of this whole puzzle. Apparently, auto theft is at an all-time high right now, and it's really putting a strain on insurance companies.
So do they know why theft is so high?
You know, the article didn't go into specifics about the reasons, but it definitely highlights it as another factor contributing to those premium hikes.
Okay, so we've got this, perfect storm, right?
Yeah.
We've got the catastrophes, the supply chain issues, inflation, auto theft, the hard market. It's no wonder that our insurance is costing us an arm and a leg.
Right. It's like everything that could possibly go wrong is going wrong.
And all at the same time. So where do we go from here? What does this all mean for Canadians in the long run?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Like, how is this all going to impact how we live our lives? I mean, if premiums keep rising, are people going to have to make tough choices about, whether they can even afford to drive anymore?
Or what kind of homes they can afford to
Well,
buy?
and what about just people's overall financial security? If they're shelling out more and more money for insurance, that's less money they have for, well, everything else.
So it's not just about insurance then, it's about the bigger picture.
Absolutely. It's about how we adapt to these, well, frankly, pretty scary changes that are happening and how we can all work together to make sure that insurance remains affordable and accessible for everyone.
Really great points. So just to sum everything up, we've learned today that Canadian insurance is in what's called a hard market. Basically, this means that insurance companies are really feeling the heat from all those catastrophes we've seen, plus a whole bunch of other economic factors.
Yep. And that's translating into higher premiums for all of us.
Exactly. So for our listeners out there, we want to leave you with a final thought.
What can we all do, not just to adapt to these higher costs, but also to mitigate the risks that are causing them in the first place?
That's the question we all need to be thinking about.
Definitely.
All right, everyone, thanks for diving deep with us today. If this conversation has sparked any thoughts for you, we'd love to hear them. Head over to our social media and let's keep this conversation going. We'll see you all next time for another deep dive.
See ya.